we can harness and concentrate quantum energy, which is everywhere. You have quantum energy literally in everything, but not in concentrated fashions. We can super concentrate it and harness it and then put it into objects so that it made available in this 3D reality. An analogy would be you're a player or a character in a computer game, and then you can do certain tasks, and with that you get like a life boost.
Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Anniston Riekstins, and this is the Empowered Life. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast. You're joined by your hosts, Rudi and Anniston Riekstins, and today we have a very, very special guest for you on the InPowered Life Podcast. You know, we're always talking about doing things that are going to support you or set you up to be the very best version of yourself. And sometimes that's you doing some inner work. That's times you taking some action. And in this instance, it's going to be educating yourself on some tools that you could bring into your life and into your everyday so that you can live and achieve your highest and your greatest potential. We're introducing you today to Philipp von Holtzendorff-Fehling. He's a coach, a conscious entrepreneur, Kundalini Yoga teacher. He is an energy healer and a visionary. And if I start just going through some of what he has done and what he's achieved, you're going to understand why this man has come out with the organization that he has and the work that he's doing in the world, because he is so tapped into the benefit of supporting and healing and growing and nurturing ourselves to live our highest and our greatest potential. He is the founder of two of our very favorite companies right now, and that is Leela Quantum Tech and Quantum Upgrade. And we're going to talk all about what is quantum technology and how is that going to impact you, impact your life, and support you, as we love to talk about in the Empowered Life Podcast, achieving your highest and your greatest potential. Philipp, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Empowered Life.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
You know, I was in preparation for this episode today. Anniston and I were talking about like what would be really good questions to be able to ask to set you up to be able to explain to the audience. She turned around, she said, man, you know, I have been stopped at least 50 times in the last 3 or 4 weeks wearing my, you know, Leela healing necklaces. And people always say, what is that? And she struggles to be able to articulate what is quantum technology and why we wear it. And so we thought we would just get you to do that for us. Could you explain to everybody what is quantum energy, what is quantum technology, and what are these healing bracelets, and necklaces that we so love?
Absolutely. A lot to unpack. Okay, so quantum energy is the energy behind the matter, and it's the same energy that we have in each of our cells. It's nothing artificial. It's nothing that we invented or anything. It's the energy that's always been there. That's sort of the base layer of existence, you could say, and all frequencies exist within the quantum field. Now, quantum technology, how we define it, is able to work with this energy, and through the technology that we created and developed really and invented is what is possible. We can harness and concentrate quantum energy, which is everywhere. You have quantum energy literally in everything, but not in concentrated fashions. We can super concentrate it and harness it and then put it into objects so that it is made available in this 3D reality, if that makes sense. So an analogy would be you're a player or a character in a computer game, and then you can do certain tasks, and with that you get like a life boost, basically, right? You know how these games work, right? That's pretty much what it is. So we suddenly have access to more energy, and that is, interestingly, now it's the type of energy that is inherent to what's inside of us. So it boosts our ability to thrive on all different levels. that is energetic at first, so on the energetic level, and then also subsequently on the physical level. That's pretty much what it does. So it optimizes or can optimize the biofield. And because when the biofield gets optimized, also the physical body takes the next step as well, relatively quickly, to get into optimal balance. And I think in about 5 years or so, we will not have to explain this anymore because it'll be way more common. It's just not so common today because it's cutting edge, and we haven't really had these types of technologies in the last few hundred years, but they are coming.
So you said a word, and well, first of all, thank you for that. I think that what I have found so hard and interesting, because we've studied energy, right? And you can study it and you can know it, but to be able to put it into words in a way that, in layman's terms, right, in a way that people can understand, because it's not tangible. We don't see it, right? And so it's some people, you have to see it to believe it kind of situation. So what do you say to people that have a really hard time conceptualizing energy, just energy overall?
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell them at first very kindly and politely to try to get out of their head, because, the brain is an amazing tool that we have, right? It's really amazing, but it's very limited in terms of its ability to really understand bigger things. It can, it's very rational and all of that, but you can process, I don't know, if we think about 10,000 bits a second that you could process with the brain, then you could process 10 billion or trillion times that a second if you're really tapped into the quantum field, because you can tap into the knowing. So that's actually a process that we're going through. And I'm not fully correct with the bits and the comparison, but I'm trying to paint this picture in general. So that's the first thing I say. Try to get out of the head and feel yourself. Do you feel yourself? Most people can't feel themselves. And then I offer them to experience the technology, to put their hand, for example, in the block, or maybe, put both hands inside and just feel and close the eyes so that you can get a sense of the energy. And there's still people out there that can't sense, right? It's such a shame, but it is what it is. So then they can look into the studies that, we explain to them what the studies show and walk them through the studies. That's what we can do. And at that point, then we would stop our efforts because there's not much more to be done. I give analogies, right? I mean, if that person were to go back to the 1600s, or frankly, just 60 years back, and would walk on the streets and try to explain to someone what she can do with a cell phone, they may not have the words for it, the vocabulary to even understand what you're talking about. They certainly will say, "You're crazy, you're nuts, that's not possible. How could that even work?" Right? I mean, it's just that happens with every new technology. People told me in 1996 still in Europe that they will never use email. That's total BS. I can write postcards and all of that. Why would I ever write an email?
That's so true.
So for the benefit of the audience, I always love to bring it back a little bit, because we're listening to you talk about quantum technology, and you've got products that you sell that support either individuals or businesses or families to be able to create shifts or changes in their life, their health, their mood, and so on, which is ultimately, and I'm going to butcher the terminology, so feel free to correct me later, but like manipulating really the energy within the person or within the home or within the space. And I want to break down what are the different products that you have, but I want to first pause and say to the listener, you're being introduced to something. If you've never heard of Leela quantum technology before or quantum upgrade, you're being introduced to something that is so cutting edge, so new, but it is such a game changer in who you are and how you get to show up. I always preface at the time of this recording, Anniston and I have absolutely no affiliation with the company. First time we're meeting Philipp. We've had a number of emails exchanged, but we love what you're doing, but we love it because we've had the benefit of it. I heard you talking in a previous interview, you were at a biohacking conference and you were talking about double-blinded placebo tests where the ATP levels had increased by 29%, and just over and over giving the stats of how this technology can create an impact in individuals. What I would love to do is just explain to the audience, what are the different products that you have? And then maybe a real brief example of how can we use them, or better said, why would we want to use them?
Yes. Okay. First of all, we're super happy that you bumped into our products and that you like them and that they have helped you. That's our goal, right? That's why we do this. And that makes our day when we hear positive feedback and that it helps people. So we have developed these blocks. I can maybe show one here. That would be the Infinity block, the old version. And then we have other blocks, small for travel and large for the kitchen. And what happens in there is that they're basically quantum energy generators. Within these plates, there's a multidimensional quantum energy space. And I get into what these things do, but just to explain real quick. So if you have two magnets in your hands, at some point you feel a magnetic force field, right? And that's no different here with these plates, just that it's not magnetic. It's infused with super concentrated quantum energy. So if you align the plates, then within there's a force field, a quantum energy space, right? And that has certain impacts on objects and physiological organisms, and then subsequently you can have benefits from that. So if you put your hands inside, for example, or your feet, so any body part basically, then it interacts positively with your cells, and it improves mitochondrial function, cell recovery, ATP production. ATP production is the energy production of the human cells, of the mitochondria. Actually, both quite significantly. We can get into that later. It improves the blood, your heart rate variability, which is directly linked to the autonomic nervous system. Those benefits you could have when you try to optimize your body, right? You can just put this thing at home or in your office or on your farm and never even touch it, and it still has and provides benefits because it harmonizes all electromagnetic fields in quite a large radius. And what does that mean? It basically neutralizes the negative effects of EMFs by harmonizing these destructive waveform patterns so that they're not destructive anymore to the human body, but also for plants and animals alike. And so that's kind of the second use case. Then you can optimize water. You can literally structure water, as the Emoto Institute has found. But we were told at some point, this is sort of an Eastern method. So we want a Western method. And then we said, okay. So then there was a chemist, and you may not have heard about this yet because it's quite new, a chemist in Germany that tested the redox potential with a scientific instrument, tested it before on rainwater and then after putting it in the block, and he saw changes. Then I said, okay, well, people will again say one test or two tests are not enough. That could be random. So why don't you do it a bunch of times? And I think he did it 10 or 12 times, and each time the redox potential changed. Okay, so now you have your Western method. So you can do that. Obviously, since water is not only in our bodies, but also in fruits and vegetables to a very large degree, and in other foods, you can assume that it would have a positive impact on foods as well. Now, that also has been studied, and I mean, we need to be a little bit careful with claims here in regards to food because there's so much more to find. But it does seem to have a positive effect on food sensitivities and literally improving the way you can digest and use and leverage food that you eat. So that's another thing. Then what else? You can copy frequencies. Very easy. You can take your favorite healing plant or just a piece of it and put it inside with anything you want to copy it on, whether that's a water glass when you then want to drink the frequency, or a metal coin, a silver coin, for example, to permanently have the vibration of the healing plant in that silver coin. It is possible. And you can also just charge objects with quantum energy, like your silverware, your laptops, your whatever. We can go into benefits later. But the last thing is you can apply quantum entanglement. Really, those are all these different use cases. So that's the top-notch product, the quantum energy generators, the blocks, that can have so many different use cases, right? But then we have some, entry products as well, and all-rounder products, frankly, also like this Heal 360 capsule, or there's also the Heal capsule. We're switching it to the Heal 360 capsule now, and this is a different price point. You cannot do as much as with the blocks, but if you wear it, you basically are also harmonized. Your energy space is supported so that EMFs don't have a negative impact on you measurably. It improves your heart rate variability, also your blood and blood flow. And on top of that, you find specific substances. In terms of the Heal capsule, it's actually the most important vitamins and minerals for the human body. And here there's some other substances and frequencies in there that basically stimulate the body to go into healing mode, right? And we also don't say that our products heal anything. First of all, they don't do that. And second of all, then there's also the regulation, right? Even if it did that, we wouldn't be allowed to say it. But it puts the body into the position to heal itself. And that's the interesting, that's the interesting mechanism, right? And how does it do it? It does it because it optimizes the biofield. It sort of interacts with the biofield and signals to the biofield, wow, you're in control, you're in power. So, but if you're in power and you're not healing, something is missing. So it just automatically goes into healing mode. That's pretty much what it does. And it may sound magical. It somehow actually is in a positive way. But again, we can get into the studies, for the people that are very scientifically oriented, bear with us. We have a lot to talk about.
So question for you there. First of all, the first time when we first got our Heal capsules, because we have the Heal capsules and these are, Heal 360. We have the water bottles, the chargers, the water, the individual ones. And then we have, the quantum upgrade. Yeah. So when I first opened this and, of course I was reading the instructions and it was like, because it comes with like 5 spheres, little that are charged. And they recommended, start with 2 or 3. And I'm kind of a go big or go home kind of person. I'm like, I can handle it. Just give me all 5. But I felt it. Like even just holding it in my hand, I could sense my bioelectric field, right? In a way that I hadn't been able to prior. And some of the research that Rudi and I have done, and I'm curious what you think about this as it relates to your products, is that I believe, and I think science is starting to show that a lot of disease and the dis-ease and the imbalance in our bodies often start in our energy fields. And then the symptoms that we experience are, that's kind of like the effect. So this is in I think quantum energy and these quantum tools. And I think why my understanding of why you're saying this is the future is because eventually we'll get to a point where we're treating it where it's starting instead of allowing it to get to the point that it's manifesting in your physical body. What do you, would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. So it is indeed the case that you cannot get sick if it's not in your biofield or if there's no resonance with it. By the way, it doesn't mean that if you use these products that you don't get sick. I was just sick last week. I had the cold and it took me a few days, but sometimes we need to go through these times also to reset and to shed out some stuff we don't need anymore. And we don't need to demonize, getting sick in between, right? So that is something in the new world now that we live in the modern world. It's completely demonized to be sick in between. No, it's fine to be sick for a little bit in between. Take the time to rest. It's your soul telling you maybe you need to just take it a little slower and then do that for a while. But in general, of course, we don't want to be sick often at all. We don't want to have any regular diseases, and we don't want to have just a bad state of life by being and living unhealthy, right? And all of that is really something that we can take into our own hands by living healthy and thinking healthy, and by also supporting our biofield. Of course, the physical things are important, and we shouldn't stop getting into the sun and exercising and using maybe healthy supplements and organic foods if we can. But the biofield is really at the heart and at the core of our existence. So we should acknowledge that and do something to support it.
So I want to one more time ground for the benefit of the audience that are listening and they're not watching us on the YouTube channel and haven't seen you actually show the products of what we're talking about. We started out talking about the quantum block, which looks almost like a base of a trophy, but you could put something inside of this. And so you would put a plate of food in, or you would put your water in, or put your hand in, your cell phone, and you would then be able to change the frequency of whatever was placed in that. And so if you're eating or drinking or using something that has been in there, it's going to have a profound impact. We're also talking about the benefit of preventing your home or your space or yourself from EMF radiation, which is something that I'm obsessed with, is just always hacking and preventing any outside stimulation or force from affecting the quality of life that I get to live. And we're going to touch on that in a moment because of Anniston's car and the car she chooses to drive. And so we'll bring that into the conversation in a few moments. But the second product we were talking about was a necklace, something that is so simple that you could just put underneath your shirt, and it is an entry level price point. It is not something that the average person cannot get their hands on. And it's about whether you think you're worthy of the investment. And we're talking about such a small amount of money. Obviously, I think everybody should get all of the different products based on what their needs are. But if you are just starting out, then at least look at the potential of getting the necklace and blocking yourself from the cell phone radiation that is around us, our Wi-Fi routers. And I want to ground something for a moment for our audience. I had a Wi-Fi router that was downstairs, but it was within 12 feet of where I was sleeping, and I could not sleep. I did not put two and two together, did not think anything of it. And someone said to me one day, have you ever thought of moving your router? And I was like, my router's not even near my bedroom. And they were like, yeah, it's right below your bed. And when I moved the router, I started sleeping. And so we don't think of the things that are impacting our lives each and every single day. And I think that's why I'm such an advocate for the work that you do. And so I wanted to move on to another product that we use of yours that we haven't explained yet. And this is one that I cannot even in my own mind logically process because it just is so far out of the realm of my knowledge. But I trust what you're doing so much, and having a background in energy and doing so much energy work and energy healing is that we understand there's things that we can't necessarily quantify. But I would love to talk about your remote work that you've got. And I said I was going to bring Anniston's car into the conversation for a second, and you can clarify if this is true. So she drives a Tesla, and Teslas produce a tremendous amount of EMF radiation, RF radiation. And your product is something that we can give you the name of the car or the serial number of the car, and you can actually go in and impact the EMF levels of radiation in her car without ever seeing the car or even being remotely close to it. Could you speak a little bit about that? And that's just one way we use it. We've used it in so many settings like conferences and in our home and for each of our kids and for ourselves. But I would love for you to speak into that first.
Correct. We can remotely really help people regarding EMF in a modern way. What does that mean? Not by having to sell your car or to tear down all the 5G towers, which is not going to happen, but by using all this tech, which has a lot of great advantages and benefits, but not having the negative impact. So we built a system, a very complex system that is analog, and it basically it's probably the most powerful, if not one of the most powerful sources of quantum energy that we have currently here on Earth. And if we can place a unique identifier of an object or an individual, a physiological organism, into the system, then it is in the field. And it's not that then the system would send energy to the car. No, it works through quantum entanglement so that literally the car or you or your pet or whatever you want to place in the field is in the field as long as you want it, because you can manage it on your end, sort of like in an app. It's a web application where you can control 100%. You can pause it at any time. You can increase or decrease energy levels. You can book in specific frequencies even. You can set lower levels for the night, which is actually recommended, higher levels for the daytime, boosters when you have a tennis match or a meeting, things like that. And the way that it even works is that we were able to create a digital front end that we connected via a bridge mechanism to this analog technology. That was a lot of development time. I mean, a lot of these parts and pieces took a lot of time to build, but that's what we made happen. And now, of course, this sounds like real magic, right? But it is also scientifically proven to work in 100% of the cases. It's not random. That's very important to understand. It's not random, and it doesn't have to do anything with your belief, whether you believe it or not. It has nothing to do with that. It just works. And then you can measure these results. There have been also dozens of studies and placebo-controlled studies. As a matter of fact, some of the most exciting research was done by Dr. Robert Sheaf at the University of Tulsa, who's an expert in the field of mitochondrial function, wound healing of human cells, ATP production. And he actually was very skeptical. He said he can run a study like that, but he doesn't think it would do anything. We said, yeah, you don't need to worry about that. As long as you can make the study work and just see what happens, and then just report out on the results. And the ATP production study, again, ATP production is the energy production in the human cells. It can be physically measured, right? It's nothing intangible. It's actually very tangible. When we don't have ATP production, we're dead. So it's that important for life. And then if we perform or think, we need more ATP production. So he did a randomized double-blind study that was statistically significant on its own, with millions of cells in the control group and millions in the treated group, and he found a significant increase in ATP production. Then he was like, oh my God, this really works. And then he said, I need to do it one more time because there's a part in me that I need to still bring on board. Can we do it a second time? So he literally asked for that. We said, of course, we're ready. And so Then he ran a second study and same results. And then he did it a third time just to cover his butt before he publishes it or puts his name under a study like that, because it certainly isn't the common narrative, right? That you can have an energy device that can promote positive changes, right? So, and then again, there was a 28 to 29% increase in ATP production. And then he went on to the next set of studies, which we asked, could you also test wound healing and cell recovery? And he said, yeah, sure, no problem. Usually you just scratch cells with a laser, or you can also do it mechanically. And again, you have a control group of millions of cells, and then you have a treated group, right? And again, randomized and double blind, so that's gold standard. And he did this 5 times, and there was a 46 to 100% acceleration in wound healing / cell recovery, which is a medical breakthrough. That is absolutely the case. It is significant. And it just shows you can impact that with the right amount of energy that can support your biofield. And again, we're talking right now over distance, right? So that was done over distance with the quantum upgrade.
I think it's incredible. I think that, a lot of us, and I say us, like just humans in general, some more than others, do a lot of things to benefit their bodies, right? We work out, we try to sleep well, we try to eat well, but in our modern day world that we live in, it's really hard to avoid, right? The negative frequencies. Like it's almost, I would argue, impossible. The toxicity in food and in water, and to have a tool like this that you can integrate into all the other things that you're doing, right? To live a healthy lifestyle and to achieve well-being, I think is so powerful. And something else, as it relates to the quantum upgrade that we haven't mentioned yet, but that I would love your take on. So as part of that, you have an option to have additional frequencies, right? Based off of what you feel like you need. And it's almost like it's literally like a drop-down menu. And it's, it's just very specific frequencies, that you can, that will enhance your biofield, your overall energy. And I've had specific instances, and I heard you share a similar story, but so my son, we have a subscription for all 4 of us for our personal energy fields, our home, the car. I mean, we're big believers in this. And I mean, we feel the difference. And so, but what was interesting was he had a soccer game and he was feeling kind of tired and run down. And so I selected the Olympic performance frequency for him. And this was on a Sunday, and he had a great game and everything was fine. And then I forgot to change it back, because that's a lot of energy. He went to school on Monday, and I get a report from his teacher that he was full of energy all day and just couldn't sit still. And he's like, I don't know, Mom, I just could not sit still. And then I remembered, I was like, oh my gosh, I never changed it back. And so it was just but again, it was just further validation, I think, to us, the power of that. So can you explain a little bit for those people listening, like the benefits of these different frequencies that you can select for yourself?
I'm going to interject here for a second, and I'm going to ask you to share a story that I've heard you share that will, I think, support in answering this question, and that you were playing tennis. And just for all the audience that haven't come across Philipp before, he is number 2 in the USA in tennis for over 50, which is just incredible. But you were playing in a tournament and you were being beaten in the first set, and then you realized, you never changed your quantum I don't even know what you would select it as, but it was looking for, love energy, and you were like in a tournament. And so you altered it and then came back and absolutely annihilated your opponent. Could you speak into a little bit of that? Because I think that's what's going to support the audience in understanding why should they do it for themselves or for the kids or for their business.
Yep, absolutely. At that tournament, I was still indeed number 2. And then soon after the tournament, I became number 1. So I've been number 1, and I intend to keep that spot. Thank you. Until the end of the year, walking the talk, right? What is possible with quantum energy?
That is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
But indeed, I played this match. Usually I'm very mindful of setting my quantum upgrade beforehand. I try to set a long booster for the match. So booster means I usually put it on the highest level that we have in the system. And then I pick the so-called Olympic performance frequency, because that's specifically designed to further help with mitochondrial performance function and ATP production and all of that. So for this first round match there, actually it was for me the second round match, but I didn't think it's going to be such a big deal. The opponent didn't look so good on paper, and I just forgot. I literally forgot to set my quantum upgrade, and it was still running. I always have it running, but it was running on a completely different frequency. I don't know, self-love and partnership, or one of the heal frequencies. I can't remember. And then I was down 5-6 in the first set, and I'm thinking, I forgot to put it in. So I didn't set the booster, and I had the wrong frequency, and I'm like, okay, I need to change that. And then I lost this very set, 5-7. Thankfully, the opponent then said, okay, I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I said, okay, take your time. I went to my phone and changed the settings. I activated the booster, put the Olympic performance frequency in there, won the second set 6-0 and the third set 6-1. That was the end of the story. Not that it does it on its own. Obviously, you need to do your part, but it literally can change. And to your original question, so there's multiple different frequencies that we have for various use cases. And you can pick and choose what you need at a given time, or what you want to work with, right? There's frequencies that are, prosperity, for example, is pretty clear of what that is supposed to help with, right? To help with money flow blockages and really help you become a magnet for prosperity. Then there's abundance, on purpose, starting with these frequencies. They're harder to study and to research, of course, but they're very effective. And we have gotten a lot of reports for that, because everything that we vibrate in, we invite into our lives. And so these frequencies, then when you're in the field and you add this frequency, it just helps you automatically to vibrate in this state, right? And it trains your own system to vibrate in that state. Now, there's a lot of other frequencies, like inner peace, for example, to be more at peace and in balance. It is good for the night as well. Then Olympic performance, we mentioned that. Then for recovery, I always personally use our new Heal 360 frequency, which I love. It's phenomenal. And there's even one for weight management to help you not crave so much and improve your metabolism, but again, that wouldn't work just on its own. You're still the driver of your life, right? You're the pilot, and it needs always you to also do something. But especially with weight management, because that's something physical. Like if you keep not exercising at all and you just sit on the sofa all day and eat crap all day, okay, then maybe you also don't need the frequency because you haven't even made a real decision. But something like prosperity, for example, is a little bit easier, that you don't need to do something. You may need to go into action if you have an impulse to do something and follow your inner impulses. But yeah, that's pretty much how that works.
So we obviously have your water bottles as well, and we use a filtration system at home, and then we pour our water into the canisters and we leave them in there. And then every time we drink, we pour from there and then we refill. And so we've got the shuffling going on in our kitchen. And I would love to know, just knowing the amount of toxins that are in food and or in water, how does this support as it relates to that? Because obviously we know that the quantum energy is changing in whatever it is that's going into the block or what you're putting into the drink. But my question to you really is, how does that shift and or change that water? Does your body process it differently? Is it less impact on the body? Anything that you could give us some color around how it supports us without divulging the secrets of your business?
Yeah. So first of all, it doesn't filter out anything. So no dirt gets filtered out. So don't, use Mississippi River water, for example, and then think that just because you put it into our devices, it's going to be awesome to drink it. It's not going to be awesome to drink it. You should always use filtered water or, other type of water that already, is relatively clean. But then, yes, what happens is because of our technology, it can structure the water and create these beautiful crystals that we talked about that the Emoto Institute found. And the cells can then leverage this water in a different way. It suddenly is really supportive and not a wastewater. And the Base Institute, in addition to some of these Emoto Institute studies and other studies by this chemist in Germany, that showed that it was able to neutralize these toxins that they found in water or even in snow. They actually, there's obviously a lot of chemicals in the air nowadays. If people just look at the sky, and you can just measure that over the last several years, rainwater and snow has become ever more so toxic, and it was able to harmonize it so that it didn't have a negative effect on the human body anymore. So indeed is quite beneficial on multiple levels. Yes.
Well, I just want to thank you so much, obviously, for your time and answering all the questions I've had as it relates to your product. But I hope our audience has really benefited from listening to all of the additional tools that are available to us that, months ago we had no idea even existed. And now our home is peppered with all of your products. We use Quantum Upgrade in our business, in our personal lives, with our kids. We even use them at events that we host. And so we'll curate the energy of the space of the room that we're going to be in to support people having breakthroughs and shifts and changes. And I am such an advocate of everything that you do. I mention it to every one of my clients. I've got most of my clients within their companies are buying it for their teams because we're just wanting to be able to support people to achieve their highest and their greatest potential. But so often we don't know that the fog or the lacking or the dragging of the human body can be things that are in our environment that now we finally have something that we can touch or control. For people that are still sitting there thinking, well, it's not something I've ever heard of before. I like what he's saying. I'm sure there's double-blinded tests that they sound great, but they're still not sure. What would be your closing words to them today to support them in maybe either learning more or taking that leap of faith to be able to buy a product for themselves?
Yes. So I think maybe get to the website, leelaq.com, LEELAQ.com, or if you want to try the remote service, you can do that for free, actually, the test. It's quantumupgrade.io. And you can also on both websites find a Telegram icon. And the Telegram icon would lead you to two different groups, one for the quantum upgrade, one for the physical product world, basically. It's private groups because we don't want any bots in there, etc. And there you can listen in and just hear what other users are saying. So, for example, the Quantum Power Group has over 7,500 members by now that are active and they're using the products and talking about it. They can answer all of your questions and you can hear from just other people what their experience are. Don't take my word for it, and get involved if you want to, right? And it's a high vibe community for sure. That's a great place to learn more. And maybe that resonates with you.
Well, I thank you so much again for your time, Philipp. We'll put all of the links to your products and then also to the two websites that you mentioned into the show notes for anybody who wants to follow you and find more about you. We'll also put your Instagram handles in. One more time, I know I've said it like a broken gramophone here, but I'm a huge fan of what you're doing. I know that this is cutting edge. The entire world is going to eventually catch up on this, but why wait when we can create an impact in our lives right here, right now, today? So to everybody listening to the InPowered Life podcast, I'm going to thank you for your time and thank you for investing in yourselves. And now I'm going to challenge you to do something, and that is to educate yourself a little bit more on what is quantum technology and how is Leela changing the game. Philipp, thank you so much for joining us in the InPowered Life podcast. I appreciate you, sir.
Thanks so much, Rudi, for having me on.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.